In November 2005, Canadian peace activist James Loney and 3 other men were captured at gunpoint by Iraqi insurgents. One of them did not live to escape. Loney is one of the lucky 3 who made it home. Today, he continues to fight tirelessly for a world without war. His story and his struggle are in a book called Captivity. It is my pleasure to welcome James Loney to Studio 4 to tell us more. Welcome back. I'm sure you've heard that so much.
Thank you, Fanny.
It was a long time.
It was a long time, yeah. Now, 4 months doesn't seem that long, but at the time it was, yeah.
Peace activism in your family, in your heart. When did it begin for you?
I guess in my 20s, sort of slowly, gradually. I worked at a summer camp with youth from poor families, and I was kind of intrigued by their lives, why they were poor, and that kind of led to my university studies and learning more about how the world is structured, and wanting to have a different world than we have now.
Don't we all? So when did you join the Christian Peacemaker team, and why?
In 2000, I did my training. I felt that I had sort of slowly had come to a commitment to nonviolence, to pacifism, largely through my faith as a Catholic, and felt that I wanted to do something more than just protest war by staying home. And there was CPT, Christian Peacemaker Teams, was this experiment in nonviolence. How can we take peacemaking to another step when conflict has actually begun? Or how can we prevent it from happening in a kind of an active way?
And when you're a member of this team, what are the rules, essentially? You're in a war zone, you're in an Afghanistan, in an Iraq. What are the rules? The
rules.
Are there rules?
Not really. Each team works very, tailors its work to that specific context. So whether it's the West Bank and Palestine, or in Iraq, or with Aboriginal communities in Ontario. And we are invited by the communities who are experiencing violence, who are affected by violence, and we work with them to sort of support, in a way, their voices, their work. And we do that through physical accompaniment, being present with people in situations where they might be at risk, or human rights documentation, telling the stories about what is happening there.
Who trains you to go into a war zone? Who tells you this could happen to you? Gunpoint capture, death?
CPT, we have developed our own training. It's about a month long, and we go through all those different things. And
Iraq was your second time in a dangerous spot, right?
I'd been to Iraq 3 times.
3?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you met your fellow peacemakers, the men who were going with you, did you know them? Did you know about them? Set it up for me.
Yeah, so we met the delegation. I was leading a delegation. There was supposed to be 4 of us. There were only 5 of us. There only ended up being 3. It was Harmeet and Norman. We met for the first time in Amman, Jordan.
Okay, so this is Harmeet Singh
Soodin and Norman Kember. Yes.
And Norman's Canadian.
Harmeet,
British. Sorry.
Yes, he's British.
He's a British man.
Yes.
Harmeet's Canadian.
Yes.
And Tom Fox, the American.
Yes, so Tom was a member of a full-time CPT worker working in Baghdad. He'd been there about a year, and he had accompanied us to the meeting, after which we were kidnapped.
And who kidnapped you? Did you know who kidnapped you? How did it happen?
So what happened, it was right after we had this meeting with the Muslim Scholars Association, and just as we were leaving the mosque compound, turning onto the road, a kidnapped team, a car in front and behind us, boxed in our vehicle. 3 men with guns got out. They took our driver and translator away. One of them got into the driver's seat. They piled into the back, pointed guns at us, closed the door, and the finger snapped. We didn't learn till much later. They called themselves Saif al-Haq, I'm probably not saying that correctly, but it means Swords of Righteousness. It was called, it was translated Swords of Righteousness Brigade. And they called themselves Mujahideen, Holy Warrior of God,
Right.
They were fighting for the freedom of their country that had been invaded and occupied by American and British forces primarily.
And I know you write in Captivity that it's natural for you to talk, thinking, gee, maybe if I make some conversation, things will get better. That wasn't the case.
Well, I think in a way...
At first.
Yeah.
In the car before you're...
Oh, yes, right. When we were immediately kidnapped, I was thinking the strategy all throughout was to make myself a human being to them. And so I thought, well, I'll introduce myself, I'll say my name. And that was not, they weren't interested in me or my name, they were just delivering the goods.
Yes, and when you arrived at the place they were keeping you, did you have a sense that it was a wealthy residence of somebody from the past, or did you have any idea where you were?
We just knew. I knew that we were in this neighborhood. It seemed like actually a fairly wealthy neighborhood. We were held in two different houses, and both the houses were very big, kind of grand almost. And we didn't know. Maybe the inhabitants had left the country and they had been left abandoned, or maybe they had been rented them. They were renting them to the insurgent group.
And I'm sure no day was the same. But typically you were handcuffed, not fed that much.
Yeah, the days felt very much the same, I would say. But we sat in a row of plastic lawn chairs with Tom at the end, handcuffed by his wrist to a door handle, and then we would be all handcuffed to him. So we were sort of in this handcuff row with left and right hand handcuffed to somebody else. And we just kind of sat there all day, and then sometime around 10 o'clock at night, then we'd set up our bed and we'd be handcuffed again, Norman chained by the leg to Tom. And
like a dog.
Yeah, and that, yeah, so.
And the boredom factor must have been incredible.
Excruciating. It's hard to believe. It was like just being in time was a torture.
Sure. What about fear?
There were moments, there were peak moments of fear, but in general, it kind of sort of faded into like a white noise in the background.
And you nicknamed your captors because you probably didn't know their real names.
We didn't.
And
no.
There was Uncle and Nephew and Junior.
That's right. Yeah, Medicine Man.
Medicine Man.
Video Man.
Tell me about Video Man. Is he the one who came in and had you make the video saying that it really wasn't all that bad?
Video Man was, of all of the captors, he was the most kind of chilling, I would say. We only saw him a few times. Whenever they took a video of us, he would come and work the camera and take these videos of us.
And the videos went to Al Jazeera. Videos went where?
They went, I think, to Al Jazeera, yes.
Did you have a TV at all?
We were, later on, we got into this routine where they would take us down into their space that they lived in, and we would watch Arabic television news and videos that they would bring back from the
yes, and hear about yourselves on occasion?
On occasion, we never saw ourselves on television except for one time, but they would tell us that we were on television. They told us, oh, you know, your mom is on TV, and they'd say your brothers, your sister-in-law is on TV. They are, you are very famous.
And you were.
It seems.
What's really interesting to me is that in spite of the four of you being there together and supposedly should love each other and everything that happens with each other, it was like any other part of life. The little idiosyncrasies that the different men had would irritate others, of course it would. It would make sense, like how somebody rolled, like you're quite meticulous and somebody's kind of messy, and even though you're stuck all together, that still erupts.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did pretty well on the whole, if considering that we could get 3 inches away from each other physically.
Yeah.
But being locked up in such constant close proximity, never any privacy, little things really got to me. Like I remember Harmeet's wiggling toes. I couldn't stand the way he would wiggle his toes. Yeah. So we fixate, I think it's like fixating on something.
Yes. It's an incredible story, James. It really is. And we'll come back and talk more about captivity.